Hello, it's Dave here, and I'm with my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
We're in our kitchen because we're making popcorn.
I'm making popcorn.
Cathy's making popcorn.
So what you're
I love how you make such a distinction there. You can say we're making popcorn. We're a couple.
I'm making
I'm
making popcorn.
Well, I'm recording a podcast.
And you're recording a podcast. I am actually quite the popcorn maker. So one of my favourite things about watching movies at home is that I get to make the popcorn myself because it's always better and a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah, because the cinema never seems to get it right for you. You've had
never.
a lot of complaints.
I complain.
Either it's there too long, so it's gone a bit stale.
Yeah.
Or
if it's stale, I'll bring it back.
Salty enough.
And the last time I actually might have been in the Odeon cinema in Richmond, which we always complain about. Oh, the popcorn's starting to go off. Last time I said, look, this is really stale. Can I get some when you make it fresh? And she said, we don't make it fresh. We bring it in bags every morning. I was like, oh, God.
And I just imagine they were like black bin bags.
They were. So, yeah, if anyone's interested, really, the top tip on popcorn is coconut oil, my friends.
There's nothing like the sound of
popcorn.
Popcorn.
The only kind of oil that we use. And by we, I mean
right
I.
Up there.
But anyway, we're at home because we're watching a movie on Netflix.
Yes, so we're going to watch Annihilation, the Alex Garland movie, the new guy from the guy who did Ex Machina, the English writer. He's a writer, he's a novelist, he wrote The Beach.
He's so prolific. He's one of those sickening people that just seems to do everything.
So bloody talented.
Yeah.
And I think Ex Machina was his directorial debut, and it was outstanding.
Oh my god, like top movie of the year. It was incredible.
So we are very, very excited for this, because I know nothing about this, and neither do you.
No.
That's the way we like to experience.
The only thing I know is
F-all.
It's an Alex Garland movie, and Natalie Portman's in it.
Yeah, that's all we need to know.
That's all we need to know.
So I'm like, I love going into sci-fi movies not even knowing the concept. So I'm like, well excited for this. There's some interesting... it's finished. You can turn it off.
It's not finished. Why are you telling me how to make my own popcorn?
Well, it's finished. There's no more popping. Surely when the pop stops, then the party starts.
Then the fun starts.
Isn't that some sort of catchphrase? This is why we don't do cinemas in the kitchen. What was I saying? Oh yeah, no. This has a really interesting distribution story behind it. If you're into stories about
tell me a story.
So this was Paramount, the studio that made this movie, and
sorry, Dave. I have one more tip for our listeners: Himalayan rock salt.
Cathy's aiming for a spin-off cooking show. to cook a mile.
You can only cook cinema-related snacks.
So
this is it, really.
I've lost my train of thought. Paramount made this movie.
That is the sound of freshly made popcorn. Come on, go back to spoilers over.
Sound really good in my headphones. No, we're not going to spoilers over. We haven't even watched the movie yet.
Sorry, we'll go to non-spoilers over.
We have 2 sofas. You know how this works. All right, so Paramount. This is taking me forever to tell this stupid bloody story. So Paramount made this movie. Apparently, they got very nervous about the movie after showing it to some test screenings, and it didn't get a great reaction. So they thought that it was going to be a bomb, basically, that it's not going to make any money, and they decided to screen it in American cinemas, but with very little marketing behind it. And then for the international rights to it, they sold them to Netflix. So that's why we're seeing this on Netflix, and it only came out in American cinemas a week or 2 ago.
Also, for our American listeners, it's not a Netflix show. It's
not
a Netflix movie.
We should say, yes. So if you are in America listening to this, you probably won't. If you haven't seen it, then I don't think you're going to get a chance to see it, because I think it got a really limited run.
You've missed it. Sorry, honey.
Sorry
to our one American listener.
And I don't think you're going to see it on Netflix either, so it kind of sucks to be you. But it's I read poor Alex Garland's very disappointed about this. It's a bit of there's pros and cons to that from his point of view. He said he made it for the big screen, and that's how he wants people to experience it. But on the other side, I think a lot more people will see it now.
Well, it's okay, I would say 2 things. A, it's better. I'm sure he got paid what he was supposed to be paid, and it's better than your movie being dumped.
It's not about money. He's a creator.
I'm saying
he's a creative.
It's better than your movie being dumped and not distributed at all, which happens. But B, why I personally wouldn't want, my sci-fi movie on Netflix at the moment would be it's in bad company. We've already reviewed, I can't even remember the name of them now.
The Cloverfield Paradox.
The Cloverfield Paradox.
And
Bright.
Oh, and we should also say we were going to review Mute, the new Duncan Jones film, which was also made exclusively for Netflix, unlike this one. And we were really excited about it, but then it got such bad reviews, we kind of got put off.
And it was quite long. We just didn't get around to it.
Really,
if there's an appetite, if anyone wants us to review it, we might. But
I am going to watch that eventually, I reckon.
But it's just when you see when every film critic you respect and anyone you know are all categorically saying something's waste of time to watch and your time's limited, it's not very promising. Now this, I think, is getting good reviews, but we really need to wrap this up and just get going and watch this movie.
Yeah, but anyway, I just thought it was an interesting point that how it, I mean, it's unprecedented for a big movie studio to lose faith in something and then to sell it to a streaming studio.
That's what happened with the Cloverfield Paradox.
It is, exactly,
so
but that was also Paramount. So I think they've kind of done these deals quite close.
I just think it's stupid because if I had a talent like Alex Garland, I would nurture him. I wouldn't throw him to the dogs like this because I'd want to work with him again because he's incredibly talented.
They don't want to work with him again, and the executives clashed with him massively. They wanted him. They wanted him to reshoot the ending. They were so unhappy with it
because this is burning bridges. This kind of behavior. But listen, I'm going to burn bridges unless we start this movie.
But he refused to change the ending. We don't even know what the movie is about, but I know that he refused to change the ending. And his producer backed him, and his deal. And anyway, the producer backing him, the studio weren't able to change it or get rid of him, and they had all the power. But yeah, it's essentially burned his bridges. It sounds like it's a shame because for Ex Machina he worked with a much smaller studio, A24. And it was massively commercially successful. Well, not massively, but it was commercially successful and critically successful. And that's why he got snapped up for a really big sci-fi blockbuster deal with Paramount. So I feel bad for him that it hasn't worked out.
I don't feel bad for him because he's a very rich and talented man. And let's watch this.
I like him.
I like him too. And he's very lucky to have made
let's
a
watch
movie.
This, your popcorn's getting close.
Bye.
Let me see him.
He's extremely ill.
You have to tell me where he was, what he was doing.
It was his decision to go in. It's something they termed the Shimmer. We've sent in drones and teams of people, but nothing comes back.
But something has.
You're a biologist. You served in the military.
If I knew what happened, I could save his life.
The boundary's getting bigger, it's expanding. We're talking cities, states.
You need to know what's inside. So do I.
Hello, we are on the sofa, not the spoiler sofa.
No, just the regular sofa.
There will be no spoilers just yet. So if you want to hear about Annihilation, what the movie's about, I'm about to give a quick synopsis of it. Then we're going to give our thoughts on it, and then we'll move over to spoiler sofa and spoil the bejesus out of it. So I would say, you know, as I said, with most sci-fi, I think it is better to go in cold.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you know, I think that's the ideal way to experience this. So probably if you're into that, don't listen to this, go watch it, and then come back and we can all talk.
Oh, and then come back and listen. But go
then come back
it.
and listen.
Watch it. Thumbs up.
If you're one of those people, because I know a lot of people who prefer to know what a movie's really about, what they're getting into, then you can listen to a little bit of this and we won't talk any spoilers. So what this movie is about is Natalie Portman is a biologist, and her husband Oscar Isaac has been missing for over a year. He's a soldier and he shows up randomly one day, and then she's like, where have you been? And he's all weird, and then turns out that there's this
the Shimmer
it's called, which is a sort of an asteroid that hits a lighthouse in a park in America, and has created this sort of weird barrier that the military have been sending people into, and nobody comes out. So he was the only person to ever come
in 3 years. He's
out.
The only person who's ever come out. Cue Natalie Portman going in. Plot synopsis done.
Yeah. So I mean, what are your general feelings having
so first of all, I really liked it. There's lots of things I liked about it. I mean, I'm a big fan of him anyway, and it's funny because as I was watching,
you're talking about Alex Garland,
big fan of Alex Garland,
who wrote the screenplay. It's based on a book.
Yeah, and elements of it reminded me of other stuff he's done. So the kind of dreamlike nature of the beach, I really felt in this, and the claustrophobia of Ex Machina, I really felt in this. So I feel like it's very true to him.
Sunshine as well, the sort of weird going crazy.
Did he do Sunshine?
Yeah.
I forgot that. It's funny because I was watching this going, Sunshine. I feel like this is like Sunshine as well. Okay, cool.
That sort of, again, claustrophobia and slowly losing your mind.
Yeah, like it's very enjoyable sci-fi. I'm a huge fan of the fact that the cast was all female led. thought that was, I mean, it's something you feel like you shouldn't have to comment on, but you do because that's very unusual.
Can I butt in here very quickly?
Yeah.
I really liked that as well. But then I can't. Oh, we need to plug in our baby monitor. please hold. That's what you get when you're with the cinema at home. Right, it's plugged in. I thought that was really cool as well, but I almost wish they hadn't had pointed it out. I wish it had just happened. Do you know what I mean? The characters actually, like Natalie Portman says, "Oh, so it's an all-female crew?"
But that's something you would note in real life because it's very unusual, I guess, for a mission to take place like in kind of a military scientific zone. And for it to be all female, so it is noteworthy both in their world. I
just thought it would be cooler not to mention.
It would be cooler, but in real life, it would be commented on. Like, and I'm commenting on it now
true.
Because it's very rare, and they're all very intelligent women with different backgrounds, and they weren't all standing around talking about men. Like, it was just, I really enjoyed that element of it, and I thought it's great to see Jennifer Jason Leigh. I'm a big fan of hers. Tessa Thompson, who we're big fans of on the podcast. She's awesome.
She's brilliant.
Gina Rodriguez, we were both going, how do we know her? And we looked her up and she's from...
she's Jane the Virgin.
Jane the Virgin. And then Tava...
She was great in this. The cast were good.
Tava Novaju. I can't say her name. She's Swedish.
Tava no able to pronounce.
I recognised her anyway. But they're fantastic. I really enjoyed them. Okay, Oscar Isaac. Was not expecting him to show up. My number one top man crush of all time.
Yes, I know.
So I was
You reminded me all the time. And you reminded me several times throughout this movie.
Very pleased to see him. And then I thought
also,
it was
if anyone's wondering, Cathy prefers Oscar Isaac with the curly hair and not the gelled back look.
Yeah, I didn't like the gelled back look. But then I thought it was funny because obviously he's an Ex Machina with Donald Gleeson and Natalie Portman's in this. Now, what's with the Star Wars cast in Alex Garland things? And also very differently received Star Wars movies, which is quite funny. Like, I wonder if Oscar Isaac's like, oh, sorry that you were in the shit Star Wars. Then we have...
If you ask me,
I really enjoyed the world design and the creature design. These are just my top line notes.
Don't say too much now.
That's about all I'm going to say before we get to Spoiler Street. Let me have a quick look. I wrote down some notes because I'm a little bit sleepy. Elements of it were a little bit Westworld, which I thought was cool. And interestingly, I didn't know it was a book. Thompson's in. God, all sorts of crossovers. I didn't know that it was based on a book until the credits popped up, and I had actually written down, this feels like a book.
Well, it's broken into chapters.
It's very linear. It felt like a book. And then I do have to say, hilariously, we reviewed it last year or the year before in this podcast, the Jackie O movie that Natalie Portman was in, and I know Natalie Portman did a huge amount of work to recreate Jackie O's voice and like listen to tapes of her all the time. Now, she seems to have carried that on into this movie.
Do you think?
At the start of the movie, she was doing her Jackie O voice, which I thought was hilarious. So that's probably my only criticism, actually. I found her she's a very composed, well-spoken woman, which in the Jackie O movie, it felt very true to that character. But in this movie, it was like a bit, really? You're that composed under these circumstances? And then the other thing is, Annihilation is the worst.
She's a badass military scientist.
Annihilation is the worst name I've ever heard of for a movie.
Oh, I wrote that down.
To the point where I was actually, Dave kept getting up and pausing the movie, and I was looking at the name for so long that I thought it said Annihilation. That's what I thought I was looking at.
Well, you were looking, I think, you were staring at this screen.
Yeah.
Like when you pause on Netflix, it says the title, and you
but
were
then
staring
at
the word so long. You said to me, it looks like Annie Hilton.
But I also couldn't then remember the name of the movie, despite having looked at it like 8 times, because it's so generic.
Yeah, so we're just going to call it Annie Hilton from here on out.
Anyway, I'm done. What did you think of it?
Oh, wow, that was speedy. I don't know. I've actually have mixed feelings towards it. Overall, I mean, I was really excited, particularly at the beginning, as it all was unraveling.
Yeah, and it's inventive sci-fi, which we both love.
Yeah, and I really, really admire it for that. I feel like I've never seen anything like that before, and a lot of what I saw was new, which is good. So I think I like that, and I always, I'll always respect people trying something different and doing different things.
And at the start we were like, it feels like Arrival, and then by the end you're like, no, it doesn't feel like Arrival.
But actually, I think that's partly my problem, is that I couldn't help but compare it to Arrival, particularly that whole phenomenon that they have to enter into and then sort of unravel. And I think that this doesn't favour well when compared to Arrival. I think this is a very cold movie. I think it's quite heartless.
I don't think it's a fair comparison, though. I think part of it's actually very limited. Like it's a brief moment where you feel like it's about Arrival, and then I think ultimately it's probably because they're both starring female scientists who are kind of encountering the supernatural, and then after that they're not the same.
Yeah, but I connected with Amy Adams a lot more than I did with Natalie Portman.
Yeah, but that's not that. But you're only comparing them because because it's like two movies with a female lead scientist who's encountering an unusual phenomenon.
Perhaps, but whatever the reasons I'm comparing them to, and perhaps it's an unfavourable comparison, I couldn't help but do it. And just on those basis, I much preferred Arrival.
Arrival's a better movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
Anyway, I was just making that one point. You don't have to. That's not my whole basis of my review. Is based around this movie versus Arrival. I'll tell you what I did like. I also liked that it was all women, and on that point of them pointing it out, I do remember that one of the characters responded with, she said, "Oh, it's an all-female crew," and she said, "all scientists."
I really enjoyed
that. Actually, it was a good. I
really enjoyed that, and I also enjoyed the visuals that it was like grown-up Ghostbusters, the way they were all dressed.
Yeah, actually, where they all had kind of a uniform and backpacks and all that. It did. This was a lot better than the female Ghostbusters as well. It's a great sort of premise. I love the central driving force of the whole thing. There's this sort of central destination that they have to get to. It's very much sort of it's a men on a mission movie, but it's women on a mission. I liked all that. There's a lot of sort of great weird science in this. There's a lot of interesting sort of body horror stuff.
Science is fun.
I love movies about science, so I loved all that. It was very much a sort of a horror movie. Things I didn't like, that a lot of the effects were really ropey in parts. The green screen was really bad.
I felt like that too, and I wonder if it's because they decided it wasn't going to get that big cinematic release that they pulled back in post-production.
That happened later.
Oh, really? I was thinking they've dropped the ball on the post-production.
The movie was really done. The movie was pretty much done at that stage. But yeah, a lot of the effects, and often these movies are they outsource the effects to multiple effects houses, so you can't really blame any one particular crew. But a lot of this felt like I can just see them standing in front of a green screen, and that does not look real. Now, it's not supposed to look real, but also it didn't look like they were anywhere. It just looked floaty, which is bad. I thought the soundtrack...
They were like on the holodeck.
The soundtrack didn't work. The guitar, there's a lot of guitar in this, acoustic guitar, and it clashes. It doesn't fit.
Yeah, I agree.
The movie title is also wrong. It's a terrible title. It also...
Annihilation could be like any tween dystopian thing ever. It could be a romance title. It could be a thriller. It could be the next Liam Neeson movie. Like, it could be anything.
And one of my pet hates is when the movie title is used as dialogue in a movie. Oh
god, yeah, that was terrible.
And that happened here, and it was like a sort of
it actually pulled me out of the movie. I kind of
dry retch when things like that happen.
I didn't dry retch, but I just thought, oh right, that's the name of the movie. I'd already forgotten.
Yeah, because you thought it was called Annihilation.
Yeah.
I think let's move on to... Anyway, to try and sum up my thoughts on this, because I'm tired as well, and I'm trying to...
This is what happens, Dave, when you have 2 glasses of wine whilst
recording I had a few bits of wine. What you didn't.
I was too busy with the popcorn, which, let's be real, that was possibly the best popcorn we've ever
The movie, I liked it. I liked the journey. I liked that I hadn't seen anything before. I'll get to spoilers. In spoiler stuff, I'll talk about the bits I really thought were cool and inventive, but I didn't really connect with any of the characters on a human level. Same. Nobody felt very human. Didn't really care about any of them. In the end, it just all felt very cold and clinical.
Can see why the studio wanted to change the ending. I'll say that much before we get to spoilers. Yeah. I definitely watched the ending going, oh yeah, I get that.
I see why you wanted.
I see what happened here.
All right, let's hop over to the old spoilers.
Spoiler sofa. Okay.
Get up.
Yeah, I'm here now.
Yeah.
It was a long walk. Okay, this isn't really a spoiler, but we're on spoiler sofa, so let it be.
Yeah.
Natalie Portman looks exactly like Alicia Vikander from Ex Machina. Yeah. To the point where they're at one point in her garb, I was like, oh, she could be Lara Croft.
In her garb.
Funnily enough, we're going to go and see the new Tomb Raider this week with Alicia Vikander. Now I'm imagining it's going to be a bit of a fall from grace for her from Ex Machina. I think it's very strange she's going to be a Tomb Raider.
That the trailers for Tomb Raider say Academy Award winner or nominee or whatever, Alicia Vikander.
Yeah, that was the same when Angelina Jolie was in it.
Oh,
She'd already won an award.
Anyway,
we digress. I just thought that was interesting that they looked so alike, and then Oscar Isaac was in both, and they and felt like that, like in terms of the claustrophobia and the way the plot was unraveling. But I just think like the ending was a disaster. I thought the ending was just like, I liked where it went and I actually appreciated the sentiment, but I thought the execution was just like, what are we looking at? Like, this is so hokey.
I actually disagree with you.
It hurt my eyes. I genuinely had to close my eyes at one point because it was so bright. Though Oscar Isaac did warn me.
When he pulls open the phosphorus screen. He did say, don't look at this.
But I would never see Oscar Isaac on screen and not watch it.
I actually thought the ending was... all the stuff in the lighthouse was just cool.
Oh, it was really cool.
Like,
it was
batshit crazy. I was like, what is happening? This is mad.
I really, really, really enjoyed the clone moving in sync with her.
Yes, that was so cool and really creepy. Cool. And the noises it was making.
It was all
and I loved the
strange.
formation of it. I loved it. Just all felt very ethereal and sort of like a dream. It was just weird.
It felt like the beach. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It's that weird kind of paradise, and then it all goes wrong because there was a couple of, at the start, like, I mean, and it slightly annoys me, the style in the movie where they interview someone and they flashback, like, that's
didn't really
dull.
add much.
Didn't add anything. But at one point she said it wasn't all bad or something like that, and then there's this really beautiful scene where she sees this creature and it's like a deer, and it, instead of antlers, like, it has cherry blossoms,
and there was two of them.
Yeah, they were moving in synchronicity. So yeah, that was really beautiful. And then we had the man bear pig. He was like a pear.
You stole my joke.
Dave said that.
I pointed that out.
No.
It's man bear pig.
A bear, a pig,
a bit of a dog,
and
a
human.
bit of human.
And
how creepy was that when it opened its mouth and
that was the best scene of the movie.
That was so good.
But and like, I think what's her name again? Jane the Virgin, that actress. She was brilliant in this. Like, such a different turn for her.
She's
than
good.
that.
I like the way she slowly starts to lose it.
Really good. And I found that scene so tense, and I loved Tessa Thompson's performances, because last we saw her in was Thor, and before that, and before that in Westworld, and before that went Creed, and then we saw her years ago in Veronica Mars. And
Dear White People as well.
And Dear White People. She plays someone very confidently. She always plays characters with lots of confidence very well, and so I enjoyed watching her in this movie where she's a really reserved performance and really shy and quite. It was a unique performance from her. I thought she was really great. I just enjoyed
she had a great
that whole
line
thing.
of dialogue after the man bear pig attack, where she said something about the creature had absorbed Shepard's like dying moments, so all that was left of her was that eternal pain. I thought that was such an interesting and terrifying idea.
And then she just went and turned into a tree. Like, the creature design of those human trees was beautiful as well. Like, there was a lot of beauty in there.
A lot of really interesting. So all the science and the weird visuals, I loved. I loved the idea of refraction. I never thought, like, all those years ago in physics class that I'd be watching a movie where my knowledge of refraction would be important.
Dave had to explain it to me, because I mean, it's been a long time since I looked at anything scientific. So
how cool.
Thank you for that explanation on refraction.
Yeah,
another reason we paused the bloody movie.
I had a little. I paused the movie and I was like, "All right, Cathy." Imagine a pyramid. It was like so I loved all that stuff. I loved all the refraction stuff. And did you notice there was a lot of really clever foreshadowing of that? The when Oscar Isaac first appears in the house and he's sitting there with the glass of water, and there's a very distinct shot where it focuses on the glass of water in the center and their hands touching across the table, and through the glass of water you see light refracted, so they come in it from different angles. So
I'm just less interested in that and more interested in, like, why would anyone cheat on him if they were married to him? And also, if you thought your husband was MIA for a year and dead, the whole reunion scene was a bit weird. Though we'll find out later it's because he's a monster alien clone. Also,
I'm not sure that the whole affair subplot really added anything to
I didn't think it added anything.
There was no dimension. I mean, it maybe
I didn't mind it, but I didn't do anything.
Tried to add an extra dimension to their love and their characters and their marriage, but really, none of that really added much.
No.
I thought they had good chemistry as actors, but really it didn't lend itself to...
It was really for nothing, and it's a shame because actually at the start I enjoyed the setting of her like being this academic and kind of living with this grief, like both the grief of losing her husband and the grief and the anger she feels towards herself for cheating on him. And I really would love to see that explored more, because imagine your husband passed away and you're cheating on him. Like how guilt, like it's possibly, like, talk about self-destruction. That's horrific to live with that. And I would love to see that explored, but this ain't the movie for that. And it just added nothing to it. And okay, fine, it explained why he went into this fear shimmer thing, because he basically was suicidal because his wife was cheating on him. So it added to her guilt, and as to that's why he went in.
Except you could read the very, very end as the two of them being reborn, almost free of as new beings, free of all the faults that they had in their previous lives as humans.
So the Oscar Isaac at the end is the clone, but she's not the clone. I thought she might have been. I thought it was a bit ambiguous.
I don't think she was that clone, but she's been changed. Like her internal, genetic composition has been irrevocably changed.
We need to talk about the guy Oscar Isaac who he cut his stomach open and his insides were moving. That was so good.
There was some great body horror stuff.
I loved the visual stuff.
But there was that final shot where we see his eyes and they're sort of the
shimmering.
They're shimmering, whatever, and so are hers. So I think we are to believe, and her memory and mind has been altered. So they are sort of, they're not themselves and they are themselves.
Do you think they'll just go home to their house now and like finish painting the bedroom? She just go back to work with her boyfriend. The boyfriend's a bit of an ass as well. He's like, come and hang out with me and my wife. We're going to have a barbecue. It's like, no thanks.
No, that's massively inappropriate.
Yeah.
I'm fine, thanks.
I'm going to paint my bedroom.
I think they'll probably just sit at home opposite each other, drinking separate glasses of water and saying, I don't feel well. Are you
She'd be like, sing to me, Oscar. And he'd be like, no, I've forgotten how to play the guitar.
I love the lighthouse as the central destination as well. And it's just it's a perfect sort of... fits into the theme of refraction and all that. And did you notice that all the lighting, the lighting was all that sort of weird multicolored rainbow stuff? That's what happens to refracted light through a pyramid.
Okay.
So
are you continuing your refraction lesson? I don't think our listeners need it. I don't think we've much more to say about this. I mean, I always enjoy.
Shut up, Dave.
I always enjoy a creative sci-fi. I think overall, I would definitely recommend it. I'm a little bit disappointed. I mean, I had very high hopes after Ex Machina, and this is not an Ex Machina. No. I don't know that this is. I mean, he wrote Ex Machina, didn't he? This is based on a book, and I don't know that he needed to be writing something based on a book. I think his own mind is so original that there was no need for this, really. Albeit I enjoyed it.
This doesn't feel like... I mean, Ex Machina is a movie I've watched twice and will watch again. I won't watch this again. Actually,
Dave, we should say you've reviewed Ex Machina on another podcast. Dave cheated on our podcast.
Yes, on the Flixwatcher podcast. I went on and reviewed it with my co-host on the Scheitgeist podcast. A lot of podcast crossovers there.
So you can hear Dave's full thoughts.
Go to Flixwatcher podcast if you want to hear my thoughts on Ex Machina.
So spare them for us now, thanks.
But this isn't really a patch on that. That movie is an absolute gem.
And I really understand that this. I really understand the studios being like, "What the actual f" at the ending of this. Like,
yeah, I can imagine test audiences coming out of that being like, okay.
Like to me, but the end felt so hokey that and I still enjoyed it, but at the end I thought, yeah, this kind of feels like a straight to DVD movie.
No,
which is what the modern equivalent Netflix is.
It's ballsy, and I like that the producer Scott, what's his name, stuck with him and said, "No, this is what he wants."
And like probably what happened in the book. Like, I'm not criticizing them for doing it, but I can completely understand why someone from a studio side would be like, "We can't release it."
It wasn't satisfactory, but also if you get, but I'm glad of that. I'd rather the weird, quirky ending, because if you get the satisfactory ending where she goes in and just like meets an alien and defeats it, and then it's like, hey, we did it, and then they go home.
No, I'm just saying I understand both sides of the argument here.
Then that's boring, and we've seen that. So I'm all for something new. And do you know what? This movie was something new. So on the whole, I liked that, and it was a good movie experience. But I'm never going to watch that again.
Oh God, no.
All right.
I have to make a refraction from our last podcast. The post
doesn't work. You have used refraction incorrectly. You were not listening to my physics lesson.
the last episode we recorded on the post, I said that Tom Hanks had won 3 Oscars. Now, I was wrong.
He's won 11.
He's won 2. And thank you to all our lovely listeners who pointed out that I was wrong.
Oh, you said that with such passive
No, I'm really glad, actually, because
thank you so much.
I genuinely thought he'd won an Oscar for Big, but he didn't. So he's won for Philadelphia and Forrest Gump.
Well, a good friend of ours and listener, Mike, said that you should have your own award ceremony for people who should have won things.
Okay, great.
The
I'm
sort
into
of
it.
shoulda, woulda, coulda awards.
And what else was I going to say? Oh my God, we're so excited. This is our 99th episode. Next week, our 100th episode is coming.
Yes.
And it's a very, very big, very important episode.
We've already recorded it.
Yeah.
We did it on holiday.
Spoiler. We've already done it.
It's the Shape of Water, which we watched in Fuerteventura.
Yeah,
in separate screenings because we both had to look after.
Yeah. So it's pretty thrilling for us. We were abroad. And we both went to separate screenings because we had no babysitter, and we recorded it whilst wading through the sea. Yes, you've heard it here first. It's very, very thrilling stuff.
Yes, The Shape of Water in water. Also, we couldn't find 2 English screenings of it. There was only 1 English screening.
Yeah.
So I got to go watch it in Spanish.
Yeah, so that's pretty fun.
I had no idea what was happening.
So
that's coming a week after you hear this.
Yes. So great, thanks for listening.
Okay, thanks for listening. Please let us know what you think of this movie.
Also, can
Annie
we just
Hilton.
say again, I'm really into the fact that Annie Hilton was released on Netflix because we're just back from holidays, we're knackered, we're broke. This is great. We get to sit in front of the telly and watch a new release Alex Garland, like Natalie Portman movie. That's pretty cool.
It's great, and
Yeah.
I know Alex Garland, you were disappointed that it didn't make it into the cinemas, but I don't think we would have got to it.
Are you
otherwise.
talking to him? You
Yeah,
he's
he's a
listening.
big fan.
Of course he's listening. So yeah, I'm really pleased that this was released on Netflix for me anyway.
All right, let us know what you think of Annie Hilton. Please.
And most importantly, please subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts, and please leave us a 5-star review. It'd be greatly appreciated.
We would love that.
Yeah.
And come chat with us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. It's at the Cinemile.
And most importantly, come back and listen to our 100th episode.
Yes, next week. Oh, we have an email address. It's thecinemile@gmail.com.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Love you. It's my new sign off. I like that.
Really weird. Please, whatever.
The next 100 are going to finish with me saying I love you to everybody.